This is the continuation. I I I had to get a phone call, so I had to make an interruption. And for some reason I don't know how to uh, how to keep it in standby. So we are, and this is, because since long ago, when I was trying to understand behavioral economics, there was what was the name of the man? It was a Jewish guy. I don't remember right now. Okay, I have listened thousands of videos, neuroscience, social neuroscience, cognitive psychology, social psychology, cognitive linguistics, behavioral science in general, behavioral psychology, all those things that where they try these people are smart people. These people, what we need to understand at this is not exactly these theories are not laws, and we need to understand that theories are theories, which means that they must not be taken as absolute truths. We need to be skeptical and to always use common sense. Observe what's going around you. For example, what's going on in Israel? You can see statements from common people, evil statements. Okay? Truly obscene. And we think like, okay, but this, can we separate an analysis, a comprehensive and an honest intellectual analysis of this phenomenon, to separate it from the circumstances, from the reality where they have, if some of them probably they were born in that reality, a socio-cultural political reality, but also socioeconomic, because I always like to emphasize these two manufactured realities reinforce each other, because it's basic in this individualistic idea that it's also a process, and we can say, okay, but this is individualistic, so why people do become tribalized? Okay, but people become tribalized because, again, it comes the idea that this tribalization process is you have to explain it only through the lenses of biology. Okay, you have these tribal instincts. And it's not because I deny the existence of the biological traits. Okay, they do exist. But they not are the ones that define. They define our ability to. They are not deterministic. And that's a great difference. And that's why this is the problem. This is a huge problem. Because if you look to these people, and you could remove them, these very people, most of them, not all of them, and they could be removed if we could do the experience, which is not possible, because it's not physically possible. And so many of these people that express hate, proof that they make dehumanizing and demonizing statements and express feelings, evil feelings towards other human beings that are just like them, and nonetheless they are sure, okay, they are sure of their position, and you look at it and you think this is a free choice. Do you think this is part of a free choice? Of course not. These people are instrumentalized through the weaponization of ideas, of values, of concepts, of principles, through the use of narratives, moral narratives. And because their real experience, which means not the conceptual, not the virtual experience of the ideas and concepts, but the real experience in the real environment, reinforces this. They reinforce each other. And we become instruments. Not because we are inherently evil, but because that possibility is there, as the opposite is there as well. But the problem is that we do not have a culture, a global culture. This is not only a problem of the West. This is a problem everywhere. And this is a problem that comes from a problem that exists before capitalism. First, it is imperialism. Imperialism exists before capitalism. And imperialism, a civilizational, imperialist civilization paradigm, is based on something that destroys our humanity. And that thing is the concept of class or caste. Once you allow, doesn't matter if it is in a tribal group, in an indigenous group, once we do not see the community, the indigenous group, the society doesn't see the dangers of creating a narrative, an ideological frame, language frame, that divides peoples into groups that are superior, that divides and justifies the existence of superior and inferior groups, that creates a pyramid scheme. We are creating evil. This is where evil comes from. Which, of course, is based in our biological ability to categorize, to have these cognitive abilities, to have these. We can do it. But why do we do it? Why have we been seduced? Why have we been deceived into these traps? Okay, that are both cultural, socio-cultural, ideological, and political and economic. Because we have this. This is where the thing to me is very important to understand. Within us, we all have the ability. We all have the capability to do evil. Period. Okay. But most of us want to cooperate because it's there. It's inherent to us. We know that we need to cooperate, to reciprocate, to be in solidarity. Because at some point in our lives, I'm not even talking about our childhood or our old age. I'm talking about in between. At some point, we all need help. Okay? That's the idea of a self-made man is the most delusional idea that people can entertain. There is no man, there is no woman, there is no people, there is no humanity with society, without society. Whatever we are in a relationship with something else. That's why we need to understand ourselves in the web of life and culture, in the web of nature. Not as individuals that are, this is so stupid, so damn stupid, but nevertheless is the mainstream mainstream ideology. So this is in the past there's so many things that are so many explanations from many sciences and from many fields of study. I mean, anthropology, that is good and bad, of course. Anthropology, archaeology, history, and many fields that are supposed to try to study the evolution of the human species, and the way humans are portrayed, the way our predecessors are portrayed, and the way that tribals are portrayed as savages. And some of them trying to make them as they were always in wars and engaging in it. This is rubbish. People only go to war in extreme cases. And let me go back, because I didn't go where I wanted to go. So what the main point that I was trying to explain, and I do it very often, is because we this feature that we have of being conscious, that the conscious of our individuality, that we exist as separated beings, and we can think in advance, as we can project for the future. Okay, our intentions, that we have intentional will. We are victims of that feature. That is a biological feature, that's for sure. But we are victims of that. Why? Because among us there are people that lacks the traits, the psychological traits of for whatever reason, They lack empathy, compassion. They don't want to cooperate unless it's favorable to them. They are opportunistic. They are often narcissistic and megalomaniacal, which means that these people can take advantage of the goodwill and the trust, which is another important feature for a social species to survive. Okay? It's not possible. A social species as us, if we could not trust each other as small bands and troops, small bands and small groups and tribes and whatever, we could not survive. The principle of the pursuit of self-interest would be an absolute disaster. But in more complex societies, okay, is the feature, is that we have a system that is built on the principles that are favorable to those that lack what is the essential features and traits of the nature of the human condition. And all science, social sciences, humanities, but also art sciences, especially biology, and also arts and philosophy, most of it frame the analysis of the human condition and the nature of the human condition through this lens. And it seems that is as if there is no other form, no other way, no other lenses to look, to analyze, to have a critical approach to why humans behave in certain ways, why the circumstances are important, why the environment, these manufactured environments where we live, where we have to survive, that we are educated to conform with, indoctrinated and instrumentalized to conform with. And then we only analyze everything through these lenses, individualistic lenses, that it has to be about something wrong with us. That's not the system. That's the same analysis. Just look how psychiatry frames human psychology, human behavior. There is no socioeconomic grievances. It doesn't exist. It's only about an individual problem, a chemical imbalance. And we are supposed to take this as facts, scientific facts. Or should we take it as scientific bullshit and start to perceive us as humans that have been driven by what is called civilization, because we confuse civilization with sophistication. Sophistication is when you or we, as human beings, as societies evolve, we put labor and resources and everything into technological development and the acquisition of knowledge to allow that technological development, and we build and we have the development of arts and the infrastructure and architecture and engineering and all of that. We confuse that with being civilized. We are not more civilized than any other people on earth. And only when I go, and I went to some places outside of Europe, I'm not a very travel person, but I had the opportunity to go to some places, especially in Asia, and I see the same problem everywhere. The problem is the same. Is the same. Is we perceive everything and study and analyze and behave through the lens, these individualistic lenses, how we perceive ourselves, and because that's how we understand our individuality, is not as this ability, this natural biological ability to be able to perceive ourselves as individuals, but to perceive ourselves and reality and relate and relate with others through these individualistic lenses, which is a totally different thing. And this affects and this distorts so in such deep ways our very humanity. And so many of us, or maybe most of us, do not really grasp it. And I have been basically all my life struggling to understand it. I think now I'm getting into it. Because most of the time there is something fishy with this ideology. There is something fishy with this supposed scientific explanation. There is something I cannot agree with what this person is saying. It is not really, but you cannot. It's not easy to go into, to cross that threshold, where you just start the old ideas stop, the old narrative stop having power over your thought, thinking processes. That's when you start to, that's your horizon really starts to open. Your intellectual and ideological and whatever horizon starts to really open. It's when the old ideas stop blackmailing you. They start to have power of your own, of your thought processes, over your cognitive processes that are in the transformation. That's why we need that conscious transformational process. Otherwise, if you don't go through it and you build a culture of liberation, because this process, you need to understand that these things happen in a living body. It's not an abstract mind. The mind is a creation of the body, it's part of the body. And this process of conscious transformational process is happening inside of your mind, of our minds. And it needs to be conscious. We need to understand what we are doing, what we are thinking about. How can I, because if you perceive that the way we are perceiving, if you understand that the way we are perceiving the nature of the human condition already conditions how you perceive yourself and how you perceive others and relate to each other, we are already being instrumentalized. In the name of what? To the interests of whom? Since we live in a class-based society, in a pyramid scheme, that wealth, power, and control is supposed to be in the hands of the few. And who are those few? Exactly what I said before. They are the ones that do not represent humanity in general. I don't want to say that every single person at the top is a sociopath, a psychopath, and this and that. Okay, I'm not want to say that, but most that, but that's the trend. So we just keep doing their beating, because if everything is about our if we are evil by nature, therefore it's always a problem of the individual, because we as individuals are evil. So our predisposition to behave to practice evil acts is it seems to be inevitable, as if the circumstances, the socioeconomic system, the sociocultural system, and everything else, it's not because of that. You know why? Because if there is always people that are able to do evil and others do not, it's not the system, it's the people. But that is exactly how they want us, to think, to perceive ourselves. Because they don't want us to understand the relevance of trust, the relevance of the reciprocity, the relevance of understanding us as individuals, but not in an individualistic way, but in terms that we understand that the common good, the well-being of us all, the freedom of us all, matters a lot for us as individuals to be free and to feel safe and to feel part of a society, not as these isolated, selfish, dehumanized beings. Okay? So, I'm going to stop it here today. I will come back. There is a lot of things, as I like to emphasize this. I'm not speaking as an authority. I'm speaking as a human being that went through many kinds of experiences, you know, and that I tried to I really tried to understand. I'm not a follower. I don't want to be a follower. I don't want to emphasize the role of authorities, of leaders, of saviors, of heroes, of nothing of that sort, because I think it's part of the problem, it's not part of the solution. As always, to put the solution in an individual, no, it's about empowering us by discovering our very humanity, not about empowering others in our name. I'm not saying that we do not need some sort of representation, because we live complex societies, are very complex systems, large systems, and there might be the need. I think there is the need for a state. That is the need for an institutional apparatus, and there is the need for order and organization, and therefore there might. I think the need for some representation, it's necessary, but we cannot give up to to be to give up our agency. Okay, so that's the need to have. I mean, for those that know what I talk about the ecological, holistic civilization, not only ecological, and the political economy of sufficiency and reciprocity, political economy. We need to understand ourselves, socio-ecological, sufficiency, and reciprocity, political economy. We need to perceive ourselves as part of the web of life. And we need to build a culture that is part of the web of nature, not this separation, these dualistic worlds, so many things that are really distorting, corrupting, suppressing, destroying us, destroying our humanity, dehumanizing us. And we think just because we are sophisticated and we have such technology so advanced and this or that, we confuse it with advances in our humanity, which is not true. That's not the same thing. We must not have this kind of progressive view that this is always kind of progressing. No, we are not as human beings. We are not progressing at all. And this new brave world that we are building is not helping at all. It's going to be a nightmare. And there is not even China is the paradigm. It needs to be discussed, because I always try to tell that people have to understand that the achievement, the highest achievement of the American imperialism was the cultural imperialism. It was the use of the PR machinery of Hollywood, of so many other forms of propaganda, of capitalistic propaganda, imperialistic capitalistic propaganda, through through consumerism, through that we become only spectators. The way we because it is part of this individualistic perception, okay, that we seek individually for pleasure, hedonistic, this hedonistic consumerism, to be happy, to feel achievement, as human achievement is only about that. And that is everywhere, in any corner of our world. If you think the Chinese suffer as this problem as the rest of us, Chinese society is an American consumerist, is a copy, the reproduction of the American consumerist society with Chinese characteristics. Of course. Why am I saying this? Because this is part of this. We are impregnated, we are colonized by this paradigm, this individualistic paradigm, so deep that there is no field of research. There is nothing on this earth that is not affected by it. And we use the knowledge produced by the people that are affected by this disease. Okay, this is not a disease, this is a disorder, call it whatever you a bug, whatever you want to call it, as the true interpretation, the true explanation of why human beings behave the way they behave. And this is false, this is incorrect, this is a distortion of our very humanity. Okay, I'm stopping here. Thanks for listening. I will be back soon.